430 years before Christ. Look, I am sending my messenger, and he will prepare the way before me. Then the Lord you are seeking will suddenly come to his temple. The messenger of the covenant, whom you look for so eagerly, is surely coming, says the Lord of heaven's armies. So this is clearly talking about the Messiah. This is a modern-day picture of the Temple Mount. What is in the middle of the Temple Mount? Oh my goodness, okay. This doesn't have what I put up there, but I have the Dome of the Rock. See the golden thing in the middle? That's the Dome of the Rock Mosque. What religion is that? Islam. Right. Guess what's missing? What's not on the Temple Mount?
The temple.
The temple. Right. So the temple was destroyed in 70 AD, and it hasn't been rebuilt since then. So for 2,000 years, there's been no temple. So guess what? Messiah couldn't possibly fulfill that prophecy in 2016, in 1955. He couldn't fulfill it for the past 2,000 years. It's impossible. So that specifies he has to be around before 70 AD. Here's another verse, Genesis 49:10, which is written 1,440 years before Jesus. The scepter will not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from his descendants, until the coming of the one to whom it belongs, the one whom all nations will honor. So this means Israel had the legal power to rule. So the scepter means ability to rule. And they had the ability to rule and even to execute capital punishment until the Romans took that away from them in 7 AD. So you remember the story of the crucifixion. Jesus, they can't actually crucify Jesus. They have to take him to Pilate. They have to say, Pilate, please, will you do this? Pilate he tries to finagle out of it, and finally he says, all right, crucify him. That's because the Romans only had the power to do that at that time, not the Jews. So it was taken away. So to fulfill this prophecy, the Messiah had to be alive in 7 AD. So we're narrowing down the time in all of history. There's an address. Micah 5:2. But you, Bethlehem, Ephrathah, although you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will be ruler over Israel, whose origins are from old, from ancient times. So this means the Messiah must be born in Bethlehem. We're getting the address narrower still. There's Bethlehem. So in the fulfillment of Matthew 2:1-6, by the way, Bethlehem was a tiny town. It's smaller than our town of Bethlehem. We're much bigger than Bethlehem. Bethlehem probably had about 500 people in it. So that's a pretty narrow, even if you just mailed a letter to Bethlehem, you have a 500, there's 500 people possible, right, that you're going to get to. So here's Matthew 2:1-6. Now after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, Magi from the east arrived in Jerusalem saying, where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we saw his star in the east and have come to worship him. When Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. By the way, if this wasn't accurate, do you think all these people in Jerusalem would have cried foul? Because no, we weren't troubled. Because they all knew about this. And gathering together all the chief priests. By the way, these guys are the ones who didn't want Jesus to live, so they wanted to kill us. If they hadn't come to the chief priests, they would have blown the whistle on Matthew. And scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. Herod didn't really know the scriptures. He actually wasn't a Jew, but he inquired of the priests. So they said to him, in Bethlehem of Judea, for this is what has been written by the prophets. And you, Bethlehem, land of Judah, are by no means least among the leaders of Judah, for out of you shall come forth a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel. Now that's from 2 Samuel 5:2. I read the other prophecy, same one in Bethlehem. that says he will be from Bethlehem, be born in Bethlehem. So he's got to be born in Bethlehem. Now Numbers 24:17 talks about a bright star appearing. Here's another prophecy that has to happen. I see him, but not here and now. I perceive him, but afar in the distant future. A star will arise from Jacob. A scepter will arise from Israel. Now, this might seem, well, it sounds a little maybe like, I don't get it, that would be a star, a specific star. But the Magi traveled 1,000 miles. They knew this prophecy. It would have been clear to them. From a famous wise, a captive Jew, Daniel, 500 years before, they knew that this star would appear, announcing the King of the Jews. And that's in Daniel 2:48, where it talks about how Daniel was put to be chief, head over all the wise men in Babylon. So they knew from Daniel, and they kept all this information for 500 years.